Good morning, everyone. I'm Sarah Gardner, the Adult Program Librarian of the Aldine Branch Library of the Harris County Public Library System. The library is excited to be partnering with the American Indian Center of Houston to celebrate Native American Heritage Month through a series of storytime events each Saturday. I'd like to introduce our storytellers for today, Donna Pierite and Tayana Pierite Simon. Donna is a language and cultural lifeways instructor for the Tunica-Biloxi Language and Culture Revitalization Program, where she promotes the learning of the Tunica and Biloxi languages and culture. She collaborates with Tulane University linguists and the Tunica Language Working Group, developing foundational resources, including linguistic texts, manuals, curricula, and pedagogical materials. Donna is a Louisiana State certified educator who has taught more than 40 years in Orleans and Avoyelles parishes, as well as an adjunct professor of French and Spanish at Louisiana State University in Alexandria. In addition to teaching French, Spanish, and English as a second language, Donna has studied and taught Tunica since the 1970s. Tayana Pierite Simon is a language instructor for the Tunica-Biloxi Tribe of Louisiana. Two other Tunica assistant language instructors, two Tunica language lifeway instructors, and a linguist. Tayana studies the Tunica language and teaches it to tribal youth, along with tribal crafts such as beaded medallions, moccasins, and pine needle baskets, just to name a few. Growing up, she participated in tribal summer camps and workshops where Miss Donna Pierite would teach the tribal youth the Tunica language. Tayana has worked with her tribe for over 6 years, previously working as a human resources assistant. Today, Tayana is an intermediate Tunica language speaker and is working with her colleagues to reawaken her native Tunica language. Donna has been performing Storytime since 2015. She represents the Cultural and Educational Resources Center Library, which contains more than 1,700 titles covering a range of subject areas. The library collections complement the Tunica-Biloxi Museum and provide an opportunity for more in-depth study and research on Tunica-Biloxi and other Southeastern Indigenous cultures. The CERC Library is open to the general public and is located in the Tunica-Biloxi Cultural and Educational Resources Center on the reservation near Marksville, Louisiana. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Donna and Tayana for today's story time. Donna will begin with the opening song.
Etima lapu lapu mahat, lapu panu hitatikach. Etima lapu lapu hemat, lapu panu hitatikach. Hello, my friend, how are you? I'm doing quite well, take care, thank you. Oh, tutti.
Today's story is HAHKA, the origin of corn. Uhaiku, Toniku, Tayaku, HAHKA. The old man created man and deer, they say. Hinyatich, Tahokak, Talapaterak, HAHKA. Then he created corn and la patera, vine, they say. Hinyatich, Yanalепik utani. He spoke to the two of them, they say. Kaku tahokak uk sako wich ui uneni. Whichever would eat the corn would become a person, they say. Kaku talapeterak uk sakuich ya uk piratik achani. Whichever ate the lapetera would turn into a deer, they say. Hinyetich tayak ta halita patawich wakani. Then the deer fell to the ground and wept, they say. Wahapawich nara hakaliwich yanokani. When he stopped weeping, he arose and he stood up and spoke, they say. Kaku ik rapasakuich imanaku ukik acha nikoni. Wahapawich nara hakaliwich yanakoni. The man who kills and eats me will be like me, he said. When he stopped weeping, he arose and he stood up and spoke, they say. Hinyatich donik tohokak elu yukawak ukeni. Then the man went up and broke off some corn, they say. Ukrish yukawich tohokak uk sak ukeni. When he got home, he ate it, they say. Hinyatich tayak tarku kichu ak uani. The deer went off into the woods, they say. Otuti.
I think it's your turn to sing.
Yes, yes. Daybreak song, Tunica. Daybreak song. Yo 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 yo. Hey, you got know it, huh? Hey, you got know it, huh? Ya no way, ya no way, ya no way, ya no way, ya no way. In closing, farewell song. Taha lapu, taha lapu, taha lapu, itashikacha. Taha lapu, taha lapu, taha lapu, itashikacha. Hotuti.
Thank you both so much for this wonderful story time. I do have a couple of questions. So, what is your first memory of speaking Tunica?
I guess I will go first. My first memory of speaking Tunica was at the language camp in the 90s with Miss Donna We were on the back of the reservation by the campsite near the bridge, and we were all sitting around in a circle while Miss Donna was teaching us the language. I believe we were doing numbers at the time, numbers and colors, and that was the first time I ever spoke the language.
That sounds really fun. Okay, Donna, would you like to answer?
Yes, I grew up in a household with, I guess it was a multilingual household. My grandparents, my maternal grandparents spoke the French from the area here, but my grandmother, sometimes she would pull me aside and tell me some words in a low voice that there was one in particular, or two, I should say, but this one always had me puzzled. I know that in Tunica-Biloxi is the skunk, but in Shiki, also in Choctaw, is buzzard. And the people of the area here a long time ago, they spoke what was like a trade language. So I never really knew what this word was. Well, she did tell me that when they lived here, Bayou Rouge, which was an old Tunica settlement, my great grandfather, he got her a skunk and he deglanded it. And that was her first pet, she told me. Shiki, a pet. But so was the parakeet that she had, was she calling him, mocking him by calling him Shiki like a buzzard in Choctaw? Or was she calling him Shiki like the skunk, calling the bird like her first pet's name, Shiki? Also, we were outside in the yard, and this was in New Orleans now. It doesn't matter where you are because culture and language is sometimes, it's like suspended in time and space. It doesn't matter where you are. You could be in, like y'all know, Greater Houston with all the traffic and everything, and the words still there. Well, we're looking at this gate and getting ready past this little alleyway, and there's a vine. And she says, that I call that a shukshi. That's a shukshi. She always would whisper to me in a low voice too, because she entrusted me about our Native American heritage. Shukshi in Choctaw, it's means a watermelon, but even today. But shulike is a shulikitok. It's a melon, a gourd, let's say squash, even shulikitok. Huh? So, it kind of, But like I said, I grew up in multilingual. And even in New Orleans, I lived in the neighborhood where many of the Cubanos and Hondureños, all the Latinos came. Well, we also had this great public library called Norman Mayer. It made me feel so good when I go there. I'd get a stack of books and the lady says, oh, no, you can't take that many books. But you know what I was looking for in those books? I was looking to find out who I was and where, like origin and where my grandparents came from. Why are all these things going on in my house? I found how do you call biographies or autobiographies like Amelia Earhart, those types of things. But I couldn't put my finger on exactly who we were, though it was going on in my house daily. But now the children, adults alike, innocent in their own culture and language, they can find all kinds of things that have been written to help them learn and discover who they are in this world.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, there is a lot more representation in books these days, and it's really good to see. Well, thank you all so much for the story time today. Please join us next Saturday, November 20th at the same time, 11:30 a.m. for another story time with Donna and the Tunica-Biloxi LCRP. Thanks again and have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you.
Apoinan.
Hita, take care. Apoinan, see you. See everyone. Apoitin, Hita. Dikach, thank you.